It's funny how life can turn on a dime. One minute you're the king of the world, CEO of your own empire, surrounded by wealth and accolades, and the next you're standing in a room you didn't even know existed, realizing all that glitters isn't gold. That was me, Lucas Grant. I wore my ruthlessness like armor, convinced that vulnerability was for the weak. Growing up, people told me I'd never amount to anything. They saw me as just another face in the crowd. I fought tooth and nail to prove them wrong, burying my fears beneath layers of success. But something was missing. In my lavish office with its skyline view and expensive taste, I'd built a fortress. But beneath the surface, I was a lonely man, emotionally detached, each accolade a hollow victory. My childhood fears haunted me, moulded me into someone who believed that needing others would only lead to pain. Why would I let anyone see the real me? But then, one fateful day, I stepped into what I thought was just another meeting and instead stumbled into the servants' room, where I met Maya Williams. What I found there shook the very foundation of my carefully curated world. In her quiet strength and unwavering faith, I saw something that made me furious and intrigued all at once. Because you see, when you're a millionaire with everything, sometimes you realize you've lost the very thing that truly matters, yourself. And that moment, that was just the beginning of a journey I never knew I needed to take. A journey from rejection to redemption. It started on a Tuesday, like any other. I remember the sunlight pouring through my office windows, illuminating the room in a way that felt almost cruel. I was riding high, a wave of success pushing me forward. But somewhere deep down, beneath the polished facade, I felt the creeping shadow of loneliness. Just a flicker of doubt in a world that demanded certainty. Then came the call, the kind that twists your gut and leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Lucas, we need to talk. Samantha, my ex-fiancée, her voice a venomous echo of old wounds. I braced myself. We're still in this together, right? You don't think I would just step aside for that maid? Her laughter cut through me. I felt my blood boiling. You don't get to judge her, Sam. Not after everything, I snapped back, my voice laced with the anger of a man battling his own insecurities. She knew how to hit where it hurt, and she struck hard. But that wasn't the worst part. No, the real blow came days later in that sterile meeting room. We're letting some of the staff go, and I need you to handle Maya. She's a liability. Those words wrapped around me like a noxious vine, tightening with every syllable. A liability. My disbelief punctured the silence, but no one in the room even flinched. It was as if I wasn't speaking at all. As the meeting closed, I could see the smug looks cast my way, experts who only saw dollar signs, not the human connection I was fumbling towards. You're going to fire her. You don't even know her. I shot back, my fists clenched, echoing accusations I couldn't contain. Yet the truth haunted me. I felt powerless. The very world I had built was tumbling down like a house of cards, leaving me standing there empty-handed. But one thing was clear, I would no longer let them define me. I owed it to Maya and to myself. So there I was, day after day, stalking the corridors of my own home like a failed private eye trying to piece together just who Maya was. I watched her tend to the flowers, whispering something that might as well have been a foreign language to me. Yes, I was the self-proclaimed king of ruthless deals and cutthroat negotiations. Yet here I was a flustered spectator vying for the attention of a woman who saw the world through a lens of hope. If I could have just 1/10 of that optimism, I'd trade it all for a fraction of my empire. But no, instead, I was met with a brutal reality check. When I decided to actually talk to her, what a disaster! I opened my mouth intending to sound profound and ended up sounding like a toddler in a tantrum. Why are you so cheerful? What did I expect? An existential crisis to break out over the vacuum cleaner. The reaction on her face was like I had stomped on her pet goldfish. My sarcasm, which I usually wore like armour, felt like a dagger aimed squarely at my gut. Then there were the mornings I'd wake up and think, today is the day I show I care, only to get whiplash from the emotional barricades I'd thrown up. Let me tell you, it's tough dodging your own issues while simultaneously trying to convince people you're not a total jerk. I attempted to reach out, but it felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall. Every moment I hesitated, every backward glance at my chaotic past only cemented my self-doubt. And don't get me started on the outside world. My friends, everyone thought I was losing it, swanning around all misty-eyed over someone who, by their standards, was far beneath me. A housemaid Lucas, really. Yeah, because what do they know about loneliness or longing? It was like trying to lift weights made of feathers while the rest of life was lying on the floor. But amidst the turmoil, something flickered in my gut, a tiny spark that refused to be snuffed out. A glimmer of determination, or maybe just sheer stubbornness. All that armour was getting unbearably heavy. Maybe I was wrong about what weakness really meant. Maybe absolute vulnerability had a strength all its own. So yeah, I was on the brink of a meltdown, but as they say, before the dawn breaks, the night is the darkest. And I was about to plunge into that night headfirst, waiting for the first light. He felt the weight of his decisions pressing down, shoving him further into isolation. Anger flared within him, a desperate burning fire. Why can't you just see the world the way it is? He had shouted at her frustration, clawing at his throat. But it wasn't just her, it was himself he was really railing against. Each word he hurled felt sharper than glass, each syllable a blow against the wall he had carefully built. Yet as Maya stood there calm, all he could see was the quiet strength reflected in her eyes. It unsettled him. How did she not crumble? He ached to escape, to slam the door shut on this vulnerability that felt so foreign. But deep down he recognized it, a truth long buried. Then, as fate would have it, Samantha's intrusion shattered the fragile moment. Her words, laced with poison, reached him cutting deeper than any criticism he'd ever endured. But it wasn't just the words that hurt, it was the realization that there was a choice. A choice to break free from the shackles of cynicism and embrace what his heart yearned for: connection, compassion, love. Maya hadn't flinched under Samantha's daggers. She met the venom with dignity, and something within Lucas stirred an ember, igniting, defying the cold. He paused, breath hitching, watching her stand tall. Something shifted. He took a step forward, heart pounding as clarity rushed in. Enough. Enough of this old life. In that moment, Lucas understood. This was not just about Maya, but about saving himself. He would not retreat into the shadows. He would stand tall beside her, holding her truth aloft like a torch. A promise igniting in his chest, no more silence, no more running. He was ready to fight, not just for her, but for the man he could become. The lights dimmed at the charity gala, a sea of glittering faces, watching as Lucas stepped onto the stage, his heart pounding against his chest. He had fought for this moment, each heartbeat echoing the doubt he'd carried for far too long. But tonight, fueled by Maya's strength, he took a breath that felt lighter than air, and as he spoke, conviction filled his words. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady, "I want to talk about the real power in this room." He scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces, and his gaze landed on Maya. She stood at the edge, her eyes wide with disbelief, and for a fleeting moment, time stood still. Power isn't just about wealth or influence. It's about respect, dignity, and love. It's about lifting others up instead of tearing them down. As he defended Maya, declaring her not just as his housekeeper, but as a vital part of his life and journey, whispers rippled through the crowd. Headlines would soon flash across every media outlet. "Power couple defies norms. A story of love and loyalty." But for Lucas, it was never about the accolades. It was about the warmth blooming in Maya's smile, radiant against the backdrop of judgment. Later that night, when their eyes met across the room, an electric thrill rippled through him. They shared a quiet moment, her voice steady yet trembling as she whispered, "I never thought I could be seen." Lucas, with a humble smirk, leaned closer. "You've always been seen, Maya. I just needed to open my eyes." As the gala concluded, Samantha approached her facade of elegance, slipping into something darker. Lucas squared his shoulders, no longer the ruthless CEO, but a man transformed. "This ends here, Samantha. My loyalty is no longer a bargaining chip." The tension crackled like lightning in the air as she stepped back, stunned. In those moments of confrontation and revelation, Lucas realized that success might smooth over old scars, but it wouldn't erase them. They would serve as reminders of who he had been, a man lost, shaped now by love and vulnerability, a journey he would walk hand in hand with Maya, with all its challenges ahead. Together, they would face whatever came next, stronger for the trials they had endured. As we conclude the journey of Lucas Grant and Maya Williams, we must pause to reflect on the profound transformations that have occurred. Lucas walked into that servant's room, a lonely titan seeking solace in power that ultimately isolated him. But through Maya, he discovered that true strength lies not in domination, but in vulnerability, an embrace of our imperfections, and a recognition of our shared humanity. Maya, on the other hand, transitioned from a quiet observer to a formidable force, finding her voice in a world that tried to silence her. Their love dismantles the prejudices that once seemed insurmountable, illustrating a truth that shakes the very foundation of societal norms. Can love exist as the ultimate antidote to revenge? Was Lucas's act of standing up for Maya an act of justice, or merely a reclaiming of what was lost? A desperate attempt to assert control in a life that had spiraled into chaos. As we ponder these questions, consider this. Is revenge merely a mask for a deeper longing for justice, or is it an act that diverts us from healing? The lines blur, igniting passion and debate. Where do you stand? Share your thoughts below. and let's discuss. In the end, Lucas and Maya stand together in a house filled with warmth and light, not just as a couple, but as allies united against the darkness of loneliness and scorn. Their story invites us to ask ourselves, are we ready to embrace our vulnerability to forge connections that matter? Because in that choice, perhaps we rediscover the very essence of redemption.